Welcome to the Shooting Show. This week, we follow the sporting life of Scottish stalker Chris Dalton, plus Richard Atkins has an affinity with a semi-auto from Franchi.
To me, that's the epitome of country sports. It's one man out in the field, wild environment, against a wild quarry. Just loved it from the word go. I come from a small village. A good friend of mine was an air rifle shooter, and he was sort of 3 or 4 years older than me, and I kind of hooked up with him, and probably from about 8 or 9, kind of got interested in an air rifle. And from then just sort of progressed through, as you do, not a lot of money, you know, a little bit of pigeon shooting, a little bit of rabbit shooting, quite a few rabbits around in Yorkshire then. And then I think you develop, or I develop kind of, as probably most people do, as you get a little bit more money, a little bit more disposable income, then you can join a pheasant syndicate. And so I sort of progressed through up to kind of a shoot captain on a fairly big shoot in North Yorkshire. But my professional career was a commissioned officer in the Air Force, so I was limited really to areas for probably 2 or 3 years at a time. So I really kind of wanted to get into stalking, but the job didn't really allow me to do it. I knew my way around a rifle. I mean, been routinely armed probably throughout the whole of my career. So I knew a sort of pointed end from the blunt end, but it was really not until I kind of finished with the Air Force and retired from the Air Force that I really got into stalking. Stalking then was not anywhere near as popular probably as it is now. Deer were a rarity then, so I didn't have anybody that I knew that sort of stalked. A lot of people, a lot of friends in the game shooting game, but not many in the stalking game. So the way I tackled it, which was slightly strange, was I went and did a deer stalking certificate level 1 in the early days of DSC level 1s, never having actually been out and stalked a deer. And as you can imagine, the rifle side of it was fine. I was quite comfortable with that, being a weapons instructor, etc. And then I sort of learnt the theory before I started to put that into practice. My first deer, I distinctly remember, my wife was with me, Anne, and we had a really good stalk into a little row. And I again can remember waiting for the perfect shot, and Jim kind of giving me a little prod in the ribs and saying, you know, are you actually going to shoot this or not? At which point, no, I did. Good shot, nice little doe down, and that was my first deer. I can remember that as clear as day. I spent quite a period of time after doing a DSC level 1 on a syndicate, what I thought was stalking a piece of ground. And I probably spent the best part of 6 months frightening deer. It was a hard piece of ground to stalk, quite a thick block of forestry, and hadn't got a clue what I was doing. Was kind of walking around as if I was on a pheasant shoot, and it took a long time of frightening deer to realise that I wasn't really doing anything useful, and eventually through trial and error worked out how to stalk deer. Fortunately, as I started stalking, coming to the end of my military career, etc., and running my own business, I had a lot of time on my hands. And if you ask Anne, she'll tell you I probably spent about 4 or 5 days a month, every month, stalking, recreational stalker. And from that it just developed a love of it. Then I went through the qualifications process in DSC2, approved witness or accredited witness as it was then. And Anne and I decided that we love Scotland so much. I've always had an affinity with Scotland. We always came here as kids on holiday, camping, always loved it. And we thought, right, we're going to semi-retire, come up to Scotland, we're going to run a bed and breakfast, and I'm going to do a little bit of stalking. What I wanted to do was to sort of give people the opportunity that I didn't have, in that I felt that there was a real niche for bringing guys or girls that wanted to come into the sport, got no probably contact with it. So my main emphasis at that time was an introduction to stalking course where we tailored a package for the novice. We'd take them out, show them what it's all about, introduce them to rifles, etc. and I enjoy that sort of thing because I think it's important to put something back into the sport. What I didn't anticipate was that, like me, I think 99% of the people that I've had here on an introduction to stalking course, and you can count that in the thousands, all bar 2 or 3 of them have taken the sport up. A lot of them fell in love with Scotland and wanted to come and stalk here. I had access to ground, so then I found that a lot of these guys kind of stay with me and stalk as syndicate rifles. So I've got people stalking with me now, a lot of people stalking with me now that started 10, 11 years ago. I just think there's something particularly special about the roe deer. It's a pretty little deer, they're not a daft deer. We have to work for them very hard in this environment. Stalking a roe buck, for example, early summer morning, really early before anybody else is out, in this sort of situation and environment, full summer coat, is an absolute magical experience. And to be honest with you, these days, more often than not, I'm kind of recceing anyway and looking round. Even when I've got the opportunity to shoot a roe buck, I'll often decline it and just spend time watching them and then back off. Second to roe of the bigger species, I mean, I've sought red deer a lot, but I do like seeker deer. And seeker deer would be my second choice, and I think simply because seeker have got attitude. Seeker stags have got attitude. Hard deer, a difficult deer to stalk, again in a woodland environment, and I like the sort of challenge. I'm a great believer in as little kit as possible. I mean, we do a lot of walking here. We often can't get a vehicle to where we're going, so I think it's important to carry your kit with you. So I minimise that. The essentials in terms of sort of level 2 stalking, which we do a lot of, and stuff that I carry, would be a pair of stainless steel Essex for the suspended gralloch, disposable gloves, and a method of carrying the deer back, and that's probably it. In terms of rifle choice, my own kind of preference has always been the 6.5 by 55. Nice bullet, flat shooting rifle, comfortable to use, and I was introduced to it quite a lot of years ago, and I've kind of used it ever since. Optics, I never ever use anything other than Swarovski. You see any pictures of me in the early days, and I've done various stuff for magazines, you will always see me with Swarovski scope, and you will always see me with Swarovski binoculars, and it's just a quality optic. Yeah, they're quite expensive, but
you've not been given them either?
No, I haven't been given them. No, they are mine. They're all bought. I wish they would give me some. I'll keep trying. Hopefully, plug it a bit more. But no, they're genuine. I learnt my lesson in my first down in West Sussex. My first stalk from a DSC level 2, and I had a cheaper scope on the rifle, and I had a pair of Swarovski binoculars. I'd not actually gone to the expense at that stage of putting the scope on the rifle, and I'm sat with a guy down on Cowdrey Estate in a tower watching 2 roe approach a pheasant feeder 140 yards away, right at the death, nicely watching it come into position just as the light's nearly gone, and I clear as a bell through the binoculars, put them down, pick the rifle scope up, nothing. End of story, pack up, go home. My next purchase was a Swarovski scope within 5 days of leaving that estate, and put it on the rifle. There's lots of people now stalking. There's lots of people out there now that will take folk out. So I would really, money well spent is spend a day and a half or a couple of days with a experienced guy with a reputation, or girl with a reputation for sure, and just pick their brains, because they'll enjoy passing that information on, or they should do, and that will be money well spent. What I've always tried to do in my business is be fair and treat people honestly. And I hope I've got a good reputation. That reputation somehow got to South Africa, and I got a call completely out of the blue from a friend of mine, now a friend of mine, Guy, who runs Wild Horizon. And he said, look Chris, he said, you're doing the same sort of thing over here as I'm doing in Africa. So I wanted to be convinced that the guy was kind of genuine and offering the sort of thing, the wild experience of hunting in Africa, and went out and he said, come out, bring a couple of clients out, let's sort of put a package together and see how it works, which I did quite a few years ago now. Again, I loved Africa, and I've been sort of several times since. Guy's a real ethical hunter, runs a good operation. He's in the southeastern Cape. I would go more frequently. I think we were talking about this the other day, apart from the flying. I just think the flying is a complete pain in the backside when you're cattle class and you sat, like that for 11 hours in a plane. It'd be nice to fly business class or first class, but it's sort of it's rather expensive to do so. But yeah, Africa's a good place to go, and I think if people want to do it, then it's something they should do. I'd like to hunt in New Zealand. In my career in the Air Force, I went all over the world, but I didn't get to New Zealand. I would go tomorrow if it didn't involve flying for a day and a bit. And I particularly would like to, although I've shot Seeker, I would particularly like to shoot some of the big Seeker in New Zealand. That would be probably one of the things I'd like to do. It's the sort of challenge I like, somewhere remote, somewhere quite difficult to get to, and a difficult sort of stalk. If I was in a scenario where we're going out every day and you walk down a few fields and you shot a deer and then came back again, it would very quickly lose its appeal. I like to have to work at what we're doing.
Chris Dalton revealing all there. And now it's the Shooting Show News.
This is the Shooting Show News. Chaos in the countryside. That's what we'll get if the Green Party has a say in things, according to Basque. The organisation has warned that the Greens' election pledges have not been thought through and would have a devastating effect. The Greens say that they would ban all hunting of animals for sport and end grouse shooting in the UK. They are not expected to win any seats in the general election except the one current Green constituency, Brighton Pavilion. Staying with political news, Labour has reaffirmed its position on shotgun and firearms licence fees. Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said a Labour government would end the police subsidy of gun licences as the party launched its manifesto. This policy is not new. It was first mentioned in 2013 by Shadow Crime and Security Minister Diana Johnson. Shooting organisations have pointed out that the recently increased fees have already ended taxpayer subsidy of the costs of licensing, once the effects of an electronic system are taken into account. There's a battle brewing over red deer in the north of Scotland. Gamekeepers in the Knoydart area have claimed that the red population is reaching crisis point because of overculling. It's claimed that some conservation groups are shooting too many deer in the winter, leaving far fewer to support the estate in the summer once stags come into season. But Scottish National Heritage spoke out in support of out-of-season licences being granted, if the conditions were right. More like this in Modern Gamekeeping magazine. Mountain hares are in the news again. This time there's a challenge for conservationists. Scottish gamekeepers have offered £1,000 to any conservation group that can show its management produces more mountain hares than grouse moors. This comes in response to some groups calling for a suspension of mountain hare shooting on moors. But the SGA said conservationists were painting an inaccurate image of the mountain hare as an endangered species and questioned why conservationists were producing so few mountain hares themselves. George Digweed won his 24th world title yesterday at the CPSA NSCA World English Sporting Championships. The event took place at South Florida Shooting Club, where George hit 93 out of 100 on Saturday and then another 94 on Sunday. In the 25 target final, he hit 21 to finish 9 targets ahead of USA's Wendell Cherry. England's Nick Hendrick finished in third. Read more in the next issue of Clay Shooting magazine. That was the Shooting Show News.
Today I'm at Park Farm, Ombersley, on a bright and blustery morning to look at this new Franchi Affinity 1 semi-auto shotgun. Well, this is Franchi's move into inertia-operated guns. They're a long-standing company with a big record in gas-operated guns, which means there's fewer moving parts, easier to clean, and can be made very light. Franchi is an Italian company of some note. This Affinity is their move into inertia-operated guns, which have previously been best known by Benelli, and Benelli and Franchi are now part of the same company, all within the Beretta group. So it's a quality brand. This comes in at the lower end of the price scale of either of those other two premium brands. This Affinity 1 has a number of features to make it attractive to shooters in several spheres. We're testing it for clays today, but it's also a field gun, quite at home in the pigeon hide as it is on a clay range. Well, the Affinity 1 has a composite stock, which is very practical. Doesn't matter what the weather, whether it gets wet, it won't warp or get discoloured. And when you're in the field, pigeon shooting, whatever, the odd knock and scratch isn't going to worry too much. This model has the new extra comfortable butt pad on it, slightly deeper than the previous one, so there's a little more rubber to give. It's not too soft, but its textured finish fits in the shoulder well and is quite comfortable. The checkering is its own unique pattern. It's comfortable and provides the grip, and the shape of the pistol grip gives you quite a nice reach to the trigger. There are spacers provided with this model such that if you want to adjust the cast or the drop, that can easily be done yourself. You note that the rib is a good width, and so it's ideal for either clays or in the field. It has a ramped rib here leading you to striated lines on the top of the receiver, which continues that nice same clear sight plane. Another aspect, inner hide, if I close it up like so, if you're loading it, you can load another cartridge in without having to press anything else. So if they're coming in thick and fast, and you can see another one coming, you can load another cartridge without having to press any buttons. One interesting feature of the Affinity one, it's using the operating system for the bolt and its return much as in a gas operated gun, in that the spring that provides that energy is in the fore end and not in the stock, with what they call a rat's tail extension on the back of the bolt compressing a spring in the stock. The spring is around the bolt. There are the twin action bars that are forced back when you fire a cartridge, and this large spring brings it back. This keeps the all the motion that's going on is in front of the bolt head, and is a proven reliable system on many a gas gun. It's been an interesting test session today on some slightly wind affected targets, but we had a lovely looper which we got certainly almost all of those, and an incomer I struggled a bit more with, and the height, the wind pushing it backwards as it's coming to me. But I've also used this on numerous sporting courses and shot around my average. It's quite light, but with clay loads that's not a problem at all, and there is some absorption of the energy with a semi-auto action. Balance, of course, is very slightly forward because of the spring mechanism here, but you've got a hollow stock should you wish to balance it to suit you. Butt pad off, little bit of lead and a piece of plasticine, and you can make the balance as you like. I found the stock comfortable to hold. The reach to the grip from the pistol grip is good. The trigger, my trigger finger falls quite nicely into position, and the trigger weight, as we said before, is quite modest. The gun handles well, comes up nicely, and it's got a very good rib, which is equally good for clays as it is for sporting shooting, pigeons in the field or in the hide, or a general walk round. It's not too heavy, so if you are carrying it around you won't feel it too much, as long as you're using 1 ounce loads as most of us do. It's a comfortable gun to shoot. So overall I've been impressed. But at its price point, it really is offering you a great deal of gun that you can feel confident in. It's interesting that within one stable they offer you a range of price points, of which this is the lower end, and you still get a lot of gun.
Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And if you're not a member of BASC, it's time to join now. BASC, looking after your sport, looking after you.